For well we know this weary soiled earth is yet thine own by right of its new birth, since that great cross upreared on Calvary redeemed it from its fault and shame to thee.
Does God care about how we live in the natural world? We're travelling 1,000 miles over land and water on a journey to discover what the Christian faith has to do with how we live in the natural world.
The whole of God's work, Jesus' redeeming work, is not just with us as humans, but it's with the whole of creation. It isn't God so loved humanity that he sent his only begotten Son here. God so loved the world, cosmos in Greek.
Following ancient and new pilgrim routes, we discover the deep roots of an ancient Christianity of the British Isles steeped in God's creation, experience firsthand the joy and the pain of pilgrimage, and meet theologians, crofters, organic farmers and fellow pilgrims from all over the country who are working out their faith and life in God's creation in ways that remember that first task we were given, to work for the abundance and flourishing of all of creation.
We are guests of the world from our womb to the tomb, and we are on a journey from the womb to the tomb, and wisdom lies in knowing where we are on the journey and what our next step should be. And we can't always know our next step unless we wait long enough to get wisdom.
Hey Joe.
Oh, hi Z, how are you doing?
Just trying to get the last bits and pieces together.
Well, for the trip.
Yeah.
Have you packed your bag yet?
I put them in the panniers, but I haven't actually tried riding the bike with the panniers full yet.
I've been wondering whether I should bring like a solar panel or something, or some sort of wind turbine to strap on the back of the bike.
A wind turbine?
In case we're kind of... Well, I started 3D printing one, but I'm not sure if it's the best idea, the best use of time before this trip, because we haven't got half of the actual stops planned yet. So you don't need to get distracted.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's why I've called. I think we need to kind of figure out the route. All right, we're off. Months of preparation, or rather months of talking about it and about 10 days of preparation. I guess there's probably maybe 2 or 3 main sort of pilgrimage centres in the UK. You've got Iona, St Andrews, and of course Lindisfarne.
So I've heard a lot about Ray Simpson and the community of Aidenhelder and what they're trying to do there, drawing lives from the Celtic saints and trying to do community better, trying to live out their Christian faith.
It's marked as a track on that map. You might be able to walk through it, not cycle through it. It's annoying.
I think let's go back to where we turned right to come up here.
So I guess we're going to have to really think about the date we start, aren't we? So that we get across to Lindisfarne when the tides, when it's clear, because you're not meant to go across when the tide's coming in, because it comes in very quickly.
Yeah, the tidal island.
Cars are getting washed out.
Yeah. Have you seen those pictures of like the cars?
Yeah, no, I think I've seen. Yeah, no, I've seen them in the newspaper when I've been in Edinburgh.
Yeah. Okay, so we can't be late. We're going to check the tide times, and we're definitely not going to be late, right?
Of course we're not.
Well, we're racing the tide to cross over to Lindisfarne. Oh, I think we've missed it. We've missed it.
was a miracle.
That was exciting.
It was literally a miracle. I think you were. I think those people. What were they saying?
They were like, whoa.
I honestly no, it was fine. But it does come in super quick, so I think we just made it.
Let's not get too cocky, yeah?
So what is it we're doing, actually?
I guess we have this kind of sense that, like, in the midst of this climate crisis, that the church can bring hope, and yet, as individuals, sometimes going to churches we can feel a bit hopeless, like we're not quite sure what to do, how to kind of actually act, how to bring hope to others, how to look after the natural world, and whether anything that we're doing actually makes any difference. It feels sometimes so small, little action. And so I guess we have this sense that the church really can bring hope.
I think a lot of the kind of ecological thing has been led by non-Christians, whereas I think like the Bible actually tells us not even just that we should care for creation, but how much our identity as human beings, what we're actually created in the image of God to be, actually is connected to what we do in the world, how we relate to one another, how we relate to natural resources, other creatures as well. And so we came up with this idea to originally, like you say, pilgrimage, but then the route got so long. At the moment, it's probably standing at something between 800 and 1,000 miles. So we decided to do it by cycle.
And I guess we were zigzagging all over the country, aren't we? So we're trying to visit different sites, different projects along the way, talk to different people.
And I think, and the idea there is, I think also to avoid that kind of climate gloom kind of approach to ecology that we kind of hear a lot, and actually just flesh out, give Christians a picture of what their life of faith in the world could be like.
And I guess it's also giving us a picture, isn't it? Because I think we kind of also struggle to actually work out how we do it. So I think it's like, it's also as much us learning as and bringing other people along with us, I hope. So.
Yeah, I meant the picture was of other people, not the picture.
Oh, is it?
We're not the picture for humanity.
Well, certainly not.
Lindisfarne, also known as Holy Island, first enters the history books in the early 7th century, when a monastery and abbey were founded there by the Irish monk Aidan. It became an important centre for Celtic Christianity and the preservation and spread of the gospel across the British Isles. We came here to find out more about pilgrimage from Ray Simpson and the community of Aidan and Hilda.
Well, biblically, the whole of the Old Testament revolves around the theme of pilgrimage. The pilgrimage of people in slavery in Egypt for 40 years through a desert land to a promised land. And the pilgrimage took much longer than it should have done because they were disobedient. And they had to learn how to walk with God, to stop when the sun, the moon was above them, and then move on again when it lifted, and the cloud and so on. They had to learn to be in tune with God in creation. That's how God guided them through creation. So that was their pilgrimage. And then when they came to the Promised Land, they built a huge place called Jerusalem on the top of a hill, which was to embody the holiness of God in one place. And then all the people who lived anywhere had to come yearly on a pilgrimage to that place. And as they went up the steps, many of the Psalms in our Bible, 121 is it to 138 or something, they're called the Songs of Ascent, or the Pilgrim Psalms. They sang them as they went up to the Holy City. In the New Testament, the Christian church was birthed in a pilgrimage. There were people from all races under heaven gathered together at Pentecost in Jerusalem on pilgrimage. And ever after, Jesus said, you are pilgrims. You've got to walk. You've got to follow the way step by step. So I see all of life as a pilgrimage, but we in our way of life do encourage actual physical pilgrimages as a way of acting out the lifelong pilgrimage.
Why is the rule of life beneficial?
The followers of Jesus at the beginning were not called Christians. They were called followers of the way. It spread amongst slaves. It was a simplistic way. Jesus himself called the way. But then baggage piled onto Christianity. Emperors created bishops and thrones and big churches and top-down organisation. And it undermined the very spirit of Jesus. And so those who want to cut through that and keep to the essence of Jesus' way need to have the priorities, the values and the spiritual practices down in front of them, which can keep them cutting out all the baggage, and practice simplicity, prayer, a rhythm of prayer, because God has built in rhythm into the creation, into our bodies and souls. And the early Christians, as with Muslims still today, they kept the rhythms of prayer of the sun's rising, the sun in the midday, the sun going down. So we are doing that. We're actually restoring something that is elemental, but so many Christians are on a giant capitalist productivity drive, trying to evangelize the world in their own strength. You know, there is a St Aidan's Way from Abernethy to Farm Island, but nobody hardly...
Was that
St Aidan's Way from Abernethy... No, Aberlady to Farm
right.
Island, yeah.
Oh, that's not far from here.
No. But you've got to slow down to get the benefit of a pilgrimage. And therefore cycling isn't the way to do it.
Yeah.
It wasn't our first choice.
We did have a lot of debate about this.
Really, the thing was that the people we wanted to visit were so far apart.
No, but you're doing it for a mission to accomplish a film. That's different, yeah.
But I do agree. I think our original preference was to lock and take it slow.
Oh, come on, you tramps and hawker lads, and gather us a blow. That tramps this country round and round, come listen in and all. I'll tell it to you, a roving tale o' places I've been. Far up into the snowy north.
Welcome to Scotland. You're the welcome party.
Look at the passports.
In the high benefice that gangs down to the moon. I've been in by Creefan Calendar and run by Bonnydoon.
I think the main thing I've been struck by is this idea of, as Ray calls it, a way of life. Trying to enshrine what you believe about who you are and how you should live your life in the world into actual daily kind of things.
Yeah.
They can keep you in the rhythm of doing it, because I think that's why maybe that's the step between being interested in, say, conservation or caring for creation and actually being able to put it into practice.
Sure.
Or same thing for prayer or hospitality.
Yes.
Or community.
Yes.
You can believe in all those things but actually end up never doing it.
We are bag blow upon my back and my face as bruins at
Roadside snacks.
Days can you survive on blackberries alone? If we ran out of food, could we just live on blackberries?
We better go pick up our trowel before we try that.
Never thinking what I'm coming from.
Keep sheep and cyclists out, because they're both too dumb to get through.
Well, I'm happy in the summertime beneath the bright blue sky, never thinking in the morning at night what I'm going to lie.
I think this is not a good advert for bikepacking, is it really? Sitting in the rain, like with soaking wet.
What is that you've got there? It literally is yellow.
Olive oil.
Are you sure? Are you sure you picked up the right bottle?
I did go to the doctor a little while ago.
A couple of weeks ago, I was travelling from Stromness to Kirkwell, and there was a guy who was walking on the side of the road, and he was hitchhiking. He said he was on pilgrimage, and he was a Christian. And I said, "Oh, we're about to start kind of a journey in a couple of weeks." And when we talked about it, we talked about what we were trying to do, what we were trying to uncover and discover. And he said, he looked at me. He said, "Forget all of that stuff." He said, "It's just everything's going to burn up anyway. Just, creation care is not important. Like, the only thing that matters is, like, the people are saved." He was indignant. He was really indignant about it.
The people find it harder to understand how God connects with nature and creation. Like, when we talk about humanity, it's an easy leap to say, okay, we know that humans are made in the image of God, that's why they're valuable. I think they can't make that connection with nature and creation. I guess it shows what the power of the story with which we believe what the world is, who we are in it, like the power that can have on us, because the Christian story for so many years has been this dominion over nature thing. It's been this, you're the image of God, which makes you above the animals. And I suppose that affects everything that we see about the world, who we are in it, in relation to the world and to God.
God made the world, the creation, and said to the humans, steward it. And when the humans killed his brother out of jealousy, the earth became sterile. The creation was affected. And so the creation is meant to be in communion. And when the Son of God died on the cross, creation mourned. There was an earthquake and the sun eclipsed. So the early fathers like Athanasius and Basil, they taught that when Jesus was immersed in the River Jordan for his baptism, he was not only restoring fellowship with Adam and God, humans and God, he was restoring fellowship with Eden and God, the creation and God. And that is why so many of the Celtic Christians, including Cuthbert, used to pray standing in water, because they were immersing themselves in the God of creation, so that God could restore creation as well as the people on it.
But I will trust in providence, if providence prove true. And I'll sing ye's O Erin's Isle, ere I come back to you.
Early Celtic Christians over 1,000 years ago had an understanding of Christ's redeeming work as being for all of creation, not just human beings. To find out more about this early Christianity of the British Isles, we stopped off at the home of Professor Ian Bradley, author of many books about Celtic Christianity and the environment, including God is Green and The Celtic Way.
Celtic Christianity is a bit of a catch-all term because we use it for really about the indigenous Christianity of the British Isles, particularly thinking about Ireland, Wales, Scotland and the north of England. And it's a dangerous term in some ways because these were individual traditions which wouldn't necessarily always have understood each other. I mean, somebody coming from Ireland over to this part of Scotland wouldn't have understood a word that anyone was saying because British Christianity was very different. But Celtic Christianity, for better or worse, is the term we think of. And we're thinking about this inculturation of Christianity in the British Isles between really the end of the Roman period, the 5th century, and the coming of the Normans in the 11th century. Okay. So it's a long period where Christianity is native. It's dominated in a way by the Irish, and the Irish, of course, come over here. Columba being a prime example, comes to Scotland in the year 563. Now, what distinguishes it is a deep spirituality, a sense of the presence of God, the closeness of God's presence, and God's presence in the natural world. Because they're so steeped in the Psalms, They have that sense that the Psalms has of the whole of creation being important to God. Yes, we have the line, what is man that thou art mindful of him, and a little lower than the angels, but also there's a huge sense, that actually the mountain badgers and the storks in their remote trees are just as important to God as we are. The whole of God's work, Jesus' redeeming work, it's not just with us as humans, but it's with the whole of creation. Think of John's Gospel. It isn't God so loved humanity that he sent his only begotten Son here. God so loved the world, cosmos in Greek. Everything I think that the Bible is telling us, and the early church was very attuned to this, is about the intrinsic importance of all creation to God, of Christ's redeeming mission being about lifting, redeeming the whole of creation. Why have we got it wrong in the church? I think probably because of our besetting human sin of anthropocentrism, that we put ourselves at the center of everything. And I blame Augustine a lot for this, because it's gone with a particular emphasis on the fall of nature. We somehow see nature as a realm which is fallen and depraved, not being redeemed by Christ, as I think it was. We have an obsession with somehow the physical being evil and tainted, and only the spiritual is good, which is a very unbiblical view, I think. And Augustine perpetrates this. It's confirmed to quite a large extent by the Protestant reformers, particularly Calvin, who tend to see the whole natural world just as a background. And everything is about God interacting with humans in history, not God interacting with the whole of creation. We've been overly focused on individual human salvation. We haven't really regarded the whole cosmos and its relationship with God.
As we made our way across the counties of Stirling and Perth, the weather began to take a turn for the worse.
We're in Stirling, so we're taking shelter in this shop where we just spent 15 quid on energy bars.
We sheltered in the shop for as long as we could, but it was nearly 5 o'clock and we still had 30 miles ahead of us, so we had little choice but to head out into the downpour. It was a race against time to reach the shores of Lough Erne, where we had planned to camp. But as night fell, so did the temperature, and exposure and exhaustion began to take their toll.
Computer scientist. He said, I was offered a job with the BP in Aberdeen. Okay. I didn't want to take them.
So this is Jerry, who took pity on us last night. We slept in the garden outside, and then they gave us dinner and breakfast as well. Just wondering, how did you see us? Why did you let two strangers in?
I think you went past in the pitch black. Being cyclists, we felt, oh my goodness, it's not a nice night. We assumed that you were perhaps going to somewhere just up the road, but then maybe half an hour later when you get back, okay, that makes sense. And when we went to the pub, we thought, oh dear, okay. You're obviously looking for somewhere to camp, so being cyclists, we thought, well, can't have that.
No, we're so grateful.
You're more than welcome.
We really were in a bit of a pickle last night.
He was like, I recognize the signs of desperation. I mean, this is my big takeaway as well. I think it's just the hospitality of people.
But now, where are we staying? We're staying at somebody's house that we've never met.
They're not here. We still haven't met her.
We still haven't met her. She doesn't know who we are. We don't know who she is.
Nice house, by the way.
But she's exceptionally welcoming, and we're just so thankful. I think it could reframe like a Western view, or even a view of hospitality. I think we have this view, or over the years, that there has to be we have to be planned and organised, and get the food in, have the dinner party. Yeah, it feels like it's partly reframing what hospitality actually is. Like, I mean, Liz didn't have time to, you know, she didn't tidy the house. She said, yeah, you're welcome to come in, and just
Left the door unlocked.
Left the door unlocked. Like, amazing.
I think coming out on this journey, it has actually put us into this position of need where you have to kind of depend on the grace of other people, and that's when the grace is offered. Does our modern life and our security actually reduce our need for the grace and dependence on other people?
You're steeper than the lid.
Yeah.
You pulled me a bit well.
We eventually arrived in Oban to catch the first of many ferries. The next leg of our journey would take us island hopping through the Outer Hebrides, a chain of islands stretching along the west coast of Scotland, and our first port of call was the Isle of Mull.
Green bag, 5 kilograms, £6.
Oh no, we've got a hill.
Good thing you've got plenty of muscles for it. We came to Mull because we had heard of a crofter named Wendy, who guides people on pilgrimage to Iona via some of the more rugged and remote parts of the island.
People first aid trained on...
Mull Another Way is a pilgrimage support and spiritual direction project that I started a number of years ago on the Isle of Mull, mainly because I noticed that folk were going on pilgrimage to or from the Isle of Iona because of its sacred reputation. And so I was aware that people were walking on the road. And I don't know about you, but certainly anytime I've tried to go on pilgrimage, which for me is about setting intention towards walking with and towards God, that traffic doesn't really help with that. So listening for the next camper van or the next coach load of people, rather than listening for the voice of God, felt like something I needed to help folk with. So I offered to guide people on the south coast of the Ross of Mull, and guide them because it's a rugged, wild and wonderful terrain. And so as I started to offer that support for folk, I also realised that it wasn't only that I was removing them from the traffic noise, I was also facilitating them entering into a wilderness space. And wilderness, as you'll know, has such a strong and rich metaphor for the spiritual life. In the Bible, wilderness is such a formative place for people. And so it just felt like it was adding another layer and level of depth to the idea of pilgrimage, to guide people by another way rather than by the road. And I felt like I would be adding to the support that I could offer pilgrims by also offering spiritual direction. Just simple questions that help people do that inner journey as they are journeying either to Iona or from Iona, as they might be journeying further across to Lindisfarne or to St Andrews. So this is Skur Cave, which has been said to have been a place of Christian worship from the 6th to the 9th century. So that would have been at the time of Columba. So I kind of imagine a coracle landing in that wee beach down there, because it is a very natural harbour and it looks like it's been cleared. And yeah, we've got this finger labyrinth. Someone sat here or stood here, because they're probably quite small, I don't know, and traced their finger. Many people will have traced their finger around this labyrinth as a form of prayer, of transformation, of, you know, going in with one question and coming out with a reflection and what God might be saying into that situation. looks like a very obvious place for someone to have stood and given possibly a sermon, possibly led some sort of song, I don't know, but there's a little step up the side, and if you stand up there and you look out, the light is cast onto you. And so you can imagine you're now standing in the place where Columba once stood with a message from Ireland.
Aye.
How have we not passed on the stories that the reasons for these carvings has been forgotten? I find it quite meaningful just to trace my finger on them, because knowing that the hands of time, people will have touched that as they carved it, and with devotion, with a faith that we share through the years and ages. So a place of ancient Christian worship, and a place of pilgrimage still today, as people come to sing and pray and reflect together in here.
Wendy and her husband John also maintain a small croft on the island, and here they shared with us what their relationship with the land and the animals they tend has taught them about our relationship with creation.
We got married up on the hill on the croft. I remember very clearly saying that, today we've got married to each other and we are wedded to this land. And while I don't feel we own this, yes, legally we do, that's just how the system works. We are here for a time, and this land will continue long after us. So I'm very, I don't know whether or not what my relationship is with the word stewardship. I struggle with that word a bit. I know it's very common to talk about stewardship of land, and people think that's better than dominion. I'm not convinced. I still feel like that puts me in a position of power. And you can see in this polytunnel, I have no control. Not at the minute, anyway. Everything's going everywhere. So I regard it as an incredible privilege to live here and to get to be on this 10-acre croft.
Good boy.
And call it mine, but I hope that it owns me as much as I own it.
Hey, chicks. Hello. Good morning. Hey, chicks. So, boys, where are the girls? Huh? Where are the girls? We should have another 3. I'm going to have a wee look round for them. They're normally all together in the bracken. They're fine. They're just hunting for worms. So I'll get some food for the sheep.
It's a lifelong commitment to be in here if our health allows us to and our circumstances allow us to be. And that's a commitment to care for and be cared by. So it's very reciprocal, having the abundance of kale that's only going to be good for our health, our own corn. All of that cares for us, and then in turn, to a greater or lesser degree, we care with and for. And that's like my relationship with my husband. We care with and for each other. It's that part of the relationship, we in the Bible, particularly in the Old Testament, we see between God and the people and the land. It is a Trinitarian relationship, and right through to the trees in the garden at the end. The Bible is bookended with this relationship with creation. So I every day I am grateful that I get to reflect on that reality by being this close to the land. So I'm just going to say good morning to the ponies and get my gloves. Since getting the ponies, it's really helped me reflect on being a creature with creatures. And I think for me that's part of what it is. To understand ourselves as creature is to recognise we have need and that we are interdependent with other creatures. And I do feel like that is part of what is needed in response to the current crises around ecology, land, climate. It's a remembering of our being with creation, and that creation isn't something utilitarian for us to use. It's for us to be with, as part of, and to have our needs met as we meet the needs of others. It just brings a bit of humility. It helps challenge, I think, some of the hubris around dominion and theology. Good girl. We'll go out for some seaweed later, all right? You hear that, Mackie? We're going to get some seaweed. Yeah. Yes, you are a stunning creature. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. That's it. You all right, Freya? Good girl. On you come. It just feels like such a gift from the sea. We put it on the beds in the garden to help fertilise the soil and just replenish. It's full of nutrients. It's really, really good for the soil. If we get balance back into the systems, including our relationship with other creatures, then perhaps we can imagine a future that we are also part of, that it is a coexistence as creature with each other. I'm drawn to the reconciled kingdom of Isaiah. You know, the lion will lie down with the lamb. The person might lie down with the lion. That we might be part of that picture of a future restored heaven and earth, and it is earth as well as heaven that's included in the vision of full reconciliation and restoration. Actually, I was going to say to you guys, if you want to make sandwiches, we have some cheese and pickle. If you want to make something for lunch before you go, yeah.
Did you say wrong path or right path?
You're on the right path.
Oh.
Very right.
This song is called This Is the Meantime Song. That's it, finished now. I'll sing a different song. This is the evening time song. That's it, finished now. Do you know what this song is called? It's just a song.
How do you feel today?
It was a long one, wasn't it? 62.1 miles. Strong headwind the whole way. I actually felt really weak today. Like I felt like my muscles were grinding right from the beginning. Come on, legs.
Yeah, I feel quite tired now at the end. I'm definitely ready to stop. Yeah, that ice cream got me over the last hump. Yeah, something about the mountains and the barrenness that is kind of both stark and inviting at the same time.
Shadow hands upon the wall, shadow footsteps on the floor. You gone home now? A line of jackets on the peg, wear them once or twice and then how you've grown now. And I hope this wee house it feels like a home.
The waves were like a lot stronger earlier, and it kind of looks like it was like coming towards us and getting quite close.
Yeah.
And we weren't sure like if we had put our tents too close to the water. reminded me of Jeremiah 5 when it says that God placed the sand of the shore, and it's by his decree that the sea shall not pass it. And it's this like idea that the strength and the power of the sea seems like it can't be held back. Like, what would man have built to try to hold back? Like walls 1,000 feet high. But God places the smallest thing, the grain of sand. We've demystified the natural world. Like, you know, we know why tides happen now, and we know why, you know, like the sea doesn't cross the sand. But that's a verse which kind of shows us like God's kind of intrinsic involvement in all of creation in a daily sense, in a daily way.
There is a huge amount of mystery in the created world that we don't understand. And so the other week I had the opportunity to go snorkeling, and I realised I hadn't seen under the sea before. Yeah, and it was a windy and rough day, and it was a bit churned up, but like you could see there's a whole new world that I hadn't experienced before.
You just quoted 2 Disney songs.
What was that? A whole new world.
Under the sea and a whole new world.
That was unintentional. As in, like, there's just there's so much I've never seen, and I think that people have never seen. Like, this is life happening that humans are not part of at all.
As we said goodbye to the Hebridean Islands, we reflected on all that we had learned. From the vast barren stretches to some of the most grueling ascents we had encountered. It had been a place that reminded us of a fading way of life, a more ancient relationship between people and place that cherished the dependence of one on the other. It was something of a wake-up call to remember that there is a deep and irreplaceable dependence on the land to provide for us.
This isn't bad. Not too bad. I had tried feet before that.
My pedals are stuck in mud.
Do you know what this song is called? This is the meantime song. Is it finished now?
No, so close.
The final leg of our journey took us steadily northwards towards the Orkney Islands, a place well known for its Neolithic settlements that go back almost 5,000 years. It was a fitting reminder that humankind has been living in relationship with creation for thousands of years, working and keeping the land, and being cared for by God and creation in turn. We came here to meet an organic farmer and find out how his faith had led him to work and keep the land.
Hello. You're a creation, aren't you, Heath?
My name's Tony Bound. I farmed here in Orkney for about 34 and a half years. I came up here from Devon, where I used to work for my father milking cows on a beef and sheep and dairy farm. She's a pain. Well, she's not really a pain. I got to keep an eye on her. She shouldn't go in the field when I'm not in the field, you see. But she gets the whiff of a rabbit. Here, Farah, Farah. Here. Up. It takes 135 years for a pasture to come into full production. And yet, in this country, people plough up every 5 or 7 or 10 years and reseed. But ploughing and modern fertilizers and modern sprays are really harmful to the health of the microbes in the soil. So I do permaculture, which is just permanent pasture. You need a quorum of species and at least 4. And so you get these wide, broad-leaved, farmers will call them weeds, but like dandelions or plantains, or they're forbs, I think they call them. If you get these different species all in a square metre, it's like a community. For example, if you had a tsunami or a plough, flattened Kirkwall, and if you only had plumbers to rebuild it, it would take a while. And so you need a community. A community of Kirkwall now has got shopkeepers and plumbers and farmers and electricians and builders and doctors and you name it, they got it. But if you only had one species of plumbers, it would take a while to fix the place, wouldn't it? And that's what they're doing. They're trying to fix the soil with one monocrop, one species. And so So that's why permaculture is important, and that way I can have micronutrient dense grass which is healthier for the animals and they perform better on it. So I used to be conventionally farming. I'd use fertilizer and I'd use a lot of antibiotics and a lot of vaccines and still have a lot of disease. Now I use no vaccines, no fertilizer. My output, I think, is more of better quality, and we don't have the expense or the work or the disease.
It strikes me that like a big thing here is loving your neighbour in some senses. Like but by farming the way you're farming, you're creating food that's more nutritious for people, that benefits people's health. And you're loving the animals more, you're giving them a better life, you're giving them better nutrition, you're giving them better health. Like the way you're farming is much more loving to people and the creation.
When I first understood about being a Christian, I wanted to talk about it a lot. And then I came here, and then I was a conventional farmer, but then I went organic and I started to see the light, and I wanted to talk about it a lot, just like I did when I wanted to talk about Christianity. And that's because the two are linked, I think. You see, I'm talking about God when I'm talking about my farm, because I'm talking about good health and healthy nutrition for everybody.
You're a good doggy, you are. I don't know what for, but you're good for something. Yes, you are. When you're good, you're good. And when you're not, you're horrible, aren't you?
She didn't like that comment, hey?
This isn't typical farming practice, but then I'm not really typical farmer.
You're quicker than me, aren't you?
I reckon I'm producing a lot more grass since I've been mob grazing. We've got more grass than I've ever had at this time of year. Mob grazing is mimicking the buffalo when they roamed the prairies of the US, or the wildebeest in the Serengeti in Africa. There are lions or wolves on the outskirts looking for a weakling or a sick one or a lame one, and they'll take them out. And the herd's safety, they herd together in a big heaps because they can't be singled out. So the herd goes together in a dense pack, and so they move along grazing as they go, but in a mob so that they can't be attacked so easily by the wolves and or the lions or whatever. And so instead of having wolves and lions, we have an electric fence, which the cows don't like getting a shock, but they understand it and they see it and they think, I'm not going near that. So we have about 75 cows and their calves on 2 acres approximately for one day, and then we move them along to another 2 acres next day, and they don't come back to those acres for about 30, 40, 50, 60 days, depending on the time of year and the grass growth and whatnot. Also, if we can graze it so that we only eat a third, trample a third, and leave a third. So we're just taking the top, most nutritious part of the plant. If you graze it down to the ground, then the regrowth comes from the root because there's no solar panel to build it. And therefore, if you graze that new growth, again, you depleted the root and you've got no leaf. And so it takes a lot longer for it to recover. I didn't understand why I was overgrazing before, but now it's been explained to me numerous times. I think I get it. And the cows get really good at knowing when I'm going to move them, and they're well behaved because they see me coming and they want to be moved because they know they're going to get a new chance at the sweet shop. They love it.
It feels like there are natural ways that God's given us to farm the land. In a sense, there's some natural ways that if we as humans we should look after the land, and it does well for us. But if we try to short circuit it and get a quick yield, then we end up harming ourselves and harming the animals, and making it a lot harder for everybody.
The longer I go at it and the more I learn, the more I realise how God's involved. and there's nothing that man can do with all his genetically modified this, that or the other, or his sprays or his fertilizer or his PhDs, that he can even begin to match what goes on in the soil and the human biome and the soil biome and the microbiome.
Everything that is needed for the abundance and flourishing of creation, God has already put into creation. What I see here is like you came here and you fixed the slightly broken relationship between cows and the grass and the land, and you actually just fixed it back into like what would have been natural. And that's actually caused this kind of like abundance and flourishing to take root and actually happen.
Our short time with Tony, observing how he works the land and keeps his livestock, unmasked the layers of short-sightedness and greed that characterize our relationship to creation, to reveal deep truths about Creator and creation embedded in the natural mechanisms of the soil.
Well, sometimes when we kind of talk to Christians about like caring for creation, and then we talk about like looking after lambs, but then sending them off to the abattoir. For some people, they're like, well, how can it be loving God's creation if you're going to like kill them and eat them? As a farmer and a Christian, how do you think about that?
If I were a vegan and I grew carrots and I ploughed the field to grow carrots, I would be destroying all the microbes society in the soil. There's a thing called the soil food web, and there are billions of creatures in the soil, and when you plough the land to grow a carrot, you destroy the homes of these soil-loving creatures. When I have permanent pasture for sheep to eat, and then I kill a lamb, I kill one animal. But when I plough the field to grow a carrot, I kill billions, because there's billions in a handful of soil. And so you cannot live without killing something, because if I don't live by killing something, I die. And I don't want to die. And God created the whole thing. The more I become going down this route that I've gone down, the more amazed I am at the creation and how it all works together.
This great exchange of life and death is embedded in the very roots of creation and calls us to live in gratitude for that sacrifice. And it parallels that other great exchange that the Christian faith is built upon, that giving up of life to bring reconciliation to all of creation. The final stretch of our pilgrimage took us to Papuwestry, one of the outer Orkney Islands and the northernmost point on our journey. As the clock ticked over 1,000 miles by land and sea, and the total ascent crept beyond the height of Mount Everest at 30,000 feet, we were ready to reach our final destination.
And God said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were gathered together he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Because it's funny, like on a night like this, the sky and the sea kind of merge together, as if it hasn't yet been separated. Here's very elemental, isn't it? Like you're suddenly like we spend a lot of our time living in insulated houses, and even just coming camping in a wild place. It's not the wilderness, but it is a bit of a wild place. It's somehow very refreshing.
When we're on this like bike pilgrimage, and we are subject to the wind and the rain, and we're like out in it, and you realize you're not more powerful than it. It reminds you of our creatureliness. We are made in the image of God, and that's a great thing, but we're also creatures of God. That's maybe the part that we forget. We kind of forget this sort of like identity as one of God's creation, like humble and dependent on him. But actually that's a really great place to be, because God's a creator who loves for his creation to depend on him.
The three great festivals of the Jews, the last one was to build a hut in their gardens in October, called the Festival of Shelters or Booths, with no roof, so that they would sleep looking out into the heavens and remember they are children of God at ground level, looking onto the creation, dependent on God.
When you were young, I held you in my arms, flew tenderly till you got up to gown, and in your bed, appetite and warm, little hands sweetly to you sang. I'll put a gold chain around your neck, a good gold ring upon your finger too. So when to Scotland you come home again, sure all the welcome you will be.
We worship the God who created the world and all that is in it, and all of the intricacies and beauty. So it's quite natural that we would want to honour him by caring for what he has made.
I realise the land of milk and honey, and we are in it. We just have to look after it and we will have it.
God so loved the world, cosmos in Greek. I take that as being a reference to Christ's redeeming mission, having an effect which is far beyond just what it does for us. He's not just sent here to save sinful humanity, but he is sent to walk on the earth. After all, he's the whole point of the incarnation is that he becomes physical and flesh. So I take all of this to mean that there is a relationship between Christ, just as there is between the Creator God, with the whole of creation.
Living differently because it honours God, like trying to live what the future kingdom might look like. So caring for the creation is like, it's not about saving the world, it's about more working out what the kingdom of God looks like in the future, kind of like prophetic almost. Like, so it's kind of a prophetic act.
Caring for creation, that was our original calling, you know. So let's frame that in the language of worship so that people of faith actually recognise that's as much part of their discipleship as prayer and Bible reading and giving to charities.
Today's secular environmental conversation is really kind of heading down this path of overpopulation is a problem, humans are the problem, therefore if we get rid of all the humans, you know, and let rewilding happen and let the planet kind of take over again.
Yes, yeah.
And they're observing true things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think the biblical picture, the hope that the Bible gives us is actually humanity is supposed to be the answer.
Yeah.
When we live as the restored image of God,
yeah,
as the gardeners, as the stewards, as part of his creation, working for the abundance and flourishing of all of it.
Yeah.
Actually, we're supposed to be the answer to the disharmony we're observing.
We can offer forgiveness. We can offer this whole dimension of worship and spirituality. In other words, we can perhaps give a kind of depth to people's concerns about the environment and say that there is something behind all this. There is something behind creation. We're not just living in a random world. We're not living in a purposeless world.
Great trip. Well done, we made it.
I can't quite believe we just cycled the whole of Scotland.
The whole.
I can't quite believe we just cycled the whole of Scotland.
And not even in a straight line, but in a zigzag. There must be easier ways to film a documentary, don't you think?
Yeah.
When we die, we don't go to the Never Never Land. There's a new heaven and a new earth. And so the Irish thought that it was very, very important that they were buried in the place where they would be put to work in the resurrection life. I thought this was my place of resurrection, the holy island of Lindisfarne. I think it is. Because the vicar's just agreed I can have my cremated remains left in the churchyard. She agreed yesterday, so it will be my place of resurrection. You can edit all this, can't you?